even had them sitting next to the air conditioning vent, but it was just, between the house temp plus the fermentation temp, and it was very vigorously fermenting. It was probably hanging out closer to 80, Yeah, right. Unhappy yeast, so very vigorous, very, energetic fermentation, but because it fermented too fast because, of the temperatures. I mean, I did everything else okay, but I needed it to be like 10, 15 degrees cooler, and I would have been fine. And what I should have done was taken it to the basement, but I didn't.
So,
we learned.
This cherry mead that we're not talking about, when it is available, where exactly will you be sending it? What's your distribution like?
Right now, 80% of my business is actually right out the front door of my shop. I've got vendors around Washington State. Most of them are currently unhappy with me because I can't keep them supplied.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So basically, I ship within Washington. I'm hoping to increase capacity a little bit more by the end of the year and run more stuff through the big tank. And then I've got requests to add shipping to Oregon and California.
The big tank.
Since you're out of Australia, I don't know how the import-export stuff with Australia works.
It's not terribly bad. You just have to pay.
That's everybody. Are there like specific requirements other than just like a form and throw some money at somebody?
I believe it's a form and throw some money. Prove your alcohol limit because that's how we charge you. So yeah,
it's possible, I suppose.
Right. So with your crew in Washington, isn't it? Who are displeased with you at the moment? How much effort was it to sell to these people? How much education on what mead was and how it actually tastes good and what you can use it for did you have to go through before you could get them on as clients?
I actually have a trick. When I'm trying to find a new vendor, well, the first few vendors, I went out and got myself. So the first 4 or 5 maybe. And basically I would just walk into the place that I wanted to sell my stuff and I'd say, hey, can you try this for me and let me know what you think? And let them try it and see what they thought and let them try a couple of different ones, get their opinions on it, and then walk out the door. And they'd always go, wait, what is that? What is that? Where did you find that? That's really good stuff. How do you get that? How do I get that? And then I'd leave them my business card. And then I'd say, just shoot me an email with what you're looking for, and I can send you, a price list and all that kind of stuff, and then we can chat about it. I would have an email before I got back to the shop. I would send them the price list, and I'd have an order by the end of the day.
Scarcity selling.
4 or 5. Sorry, what was that?
Scarcity selling.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after the first 4 or 5, I don't really chase new vendors anymore. What I do is when I have, since like 80% of my business is at the shop, I get a lot of people that come from all over the state and quite a few that come from outside of the state. But if there's a bunch of people that are in a specific area, I'll have them refer me to somebody that's in their area, and then I'll give them 2 business cards, one for them and one for the person that they want to carry my stuff. So the last account I got was down in Tacoma, and I had a whole bunch of people that were coming from south of Seattle. Like, they were driving 2 hours, 3 hours to come visit me. And I feel bad when somebody drives that far. So I would always send them home with a couple of business cards and say, hey, if there's a local shop that's near you, give them my business card, have them give me a call, and I'll see what I can do. And every single vendor that I've gotten outside of or past the first 5 has been because of customers that have gone into a shop or a couple of shops, dropped off my business card, and then I'll get a phone call from that vendor or that bottle shop or whatever that says, hey, so I've got a whole bunch of people that want me to carry your stuff. Can you send me a price list? And it just kind of an organic growth that way, and it's always so that my customers can go somewhere that's local to them to get something, and then if they want, they can make the trip up to the meadery, but they don't have to.
That is
And
some damn fine
expand it that
networking.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. It works really well.
that's really smart. And, and emphasizes the fact of, make it easy for them to get a hold of you. Like the rule number one I tell meaderies when I'm going around looking at their stuff for my marketing business, and it's like you go to their website and the only way to get a hold of them is to fill out a blind contact form. Yeah, no, don't think so.
Yeah.
I want to pick up the phone. I want to have some sort of directable type contact where I can pick up the phone, message them, what have you, and get a hold of them, because and half of them don't read their emails anyway. So yeah, it's a problem. It really is. I mean, they're all so busy making mead that they forget that they actually have to, respond to people. Yeah, and
Run a business.
yeah, and
Right.
well, there's a lot of mead makers out there that are awesome mead makers, not the best possible business people. So, it's a thing. So, but that's just brilliant. It really is.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're different
just-
skill sets too. You can either run a business or you can make something, unless you've got that experience that kind of backs it up.
Yeah.
That's where I'm fortunate that I changed careers so many times. I've got all this different experience that actually allows me to kind of function on different levels for those different aspects of the business.
So you never apprenticed with anyone for either business or mead or anything like that?
No, I was an executive for a while. I was an engineer. I was a business owner for an IT company. I did sales management and sales and all that kind of stuff. So I've done all the pieces of different jobs. It's just kind of applying previous skills to this one.
So getting back to where you started up with your first 4 to 5, or let's say you...
Hamish cut out there for a second.
Have you got me?
Yeah, you're back now. You cut out just
Yes,
for a
yeah.
second.
Given that you're trying to sell it to somebody, you've got half a dozen meads that you've made that you're proud of, that you're happy with. What would be your choice as an introductory mead? Would we go a mel, a traditional, a sweet, a dry, etc., etc.? What would be your choice?
Oh, my choice. I tend to bring usually 3 different types or different flavors with me if I'm trying to drum up a new account. Usually I have a traditional, just so you know what mead should taste like. I usually have a melomel, and then I'll usually have something that just happens to be in stock, or something that I know I'm the only person that makes it. So my licorice root's a good example.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Licorice root's interesting. I actually have a lot of work that I do to it before I can actually use it in mead, but it ends up with a caramely, mapley, vanilla flavor.
Ooh.
With a hell of an
Not black
aftertaste, I'm betting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Oh,
But
think you get me a bottle?
Okay, I'll see what I can do. And then I'll wrap it
Oh, you're
into
gonna-
a brown paper bag and ship it across the border.
So the real irony is I'm out of it, and all my
Aw.
vendors are out of it.
Oh no.
It's one of the batches I need to start before the end of the year. I'm just waiting for fermenter space to open up right now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't have an Easter fennel in it, which are kind of like the love it or hate it flavors. But it's one of those ones where I can bring it into somebody that I'm trying to, persuade to purchase my stuff, and say, okay, so here's, what mead's supposed to taste like. Here's what mead tastes like with fruit, and here's something that you don't expect. Do you like licorice? And you get a lot
is
of
that the
people
order
who are
you
like,
presented?
I hate licorice. Yeah, actually.
Okay.
Or
And
either that,
what
or
sweetness level?
I'll do the traditional last.
Okay. And what sweetness level do you normally have on that?
I tend to stay in the semi-sweet range for everything. I don't usually make a dry, just because I don't really like to drink them, and I can always have people that come in that say, "Hey, I only drink dry red wines, and I need a dry, white mead or a dry red mead," and proceed with the education on that. Sorry, my kids are running around. I don't know if you guys can hear them or not.
Nope.
And then just kind of explain what it is and kind of walk them through what they're tasting, because if I give you wine, it tastes like wine. Doesn't matter what style it is, what grapes it comes from, who made it, it still tastes like wine. Same thing with beer. It doesn't matter if it's an IPA or a stout or a porter or a double bock or whatever, it still tastes like beer. But mead, since I can make it taste like any of those things, I usually like to have a variety of them so that I can just give you the entire range of stuff. So usually like at the shop or when I'm drumming up a vendor, I'll have three things that are just wildly different from each other, just so that you kind of get an idea of what range is possible. Knowing that that's not the limit of what's possible, but this is just, here's left field, here's right field, here's something kind of right in the middle, and I can make anything anywhere in that range. Or outside of that range, for that matter, when we start talking about like the weirder mills and stuff.
So, when you say everything's a semi-sweet, what's your process there? Do you ferment to a gravity and then cold crush? Do you ferment dry and back sweeten? What's the plan there?
It depends what it is. So if I'm using like berries and stuff, I'll actually stabilize first because I don't want wild yeast strains and bacteria or whatever could be growing on the fruit to actually impact something. So I'll actually sulfite and sorbate, stabilize it, then I'll back sweeten with the fruit. With other things like my honey, I actually or with my traditional, I should say, I have my starting gravity and then my yeast tolerance, and then I assume alcohol poisoning, taking measurements along the way. And then when it's done is when it's done, and then I usually don't have to back sweeten. So I don't usually back sweeten my traditional mead. I usually start out with a higher Brix for it.
So you just take it how it comes normally?
Correct. So if you ever see my bottles, there's actually an alcohol range on them of 11 to 14%. It's usually like between 13 and 14% consistently. Just because the yeast strains that I use, the amount of honey that I add, and just I'm fairly particular about the specifics that go into it. And I've got a lot of control over that just because of temperature and the fermentation space.
What sort of turnaround are you getting with your various batches?
Fermentation to 14% is usually between 2 and 4 weeks. And I usually let things, I try to naturally clarify, although one of my friends a few months ago turned me on to the idea of using bentonite primary, and then letting the CO2 production actually forces the bentonite up into solution and pulls everything down, so you end up with this like cake layer, and it clarifies super fast.
Huh.
Because I'd used bentonite previously as kind of a test, and I can taste it if I or anybody else has made or used bentonite as a clarifier or a fining agent, I can taste it. So I was super hesitant to try it, but he made the suggestion. It's actually John Talkington from Birmingham Meadery.
Yeah.
From a winemaker that he was working with, he suggested using bentonite and primary, just throw it all in up front, and it comes out clear. And sure enough, after that first racking, within a couple of days, it's mostly clear.
I know AJ's writing that down.
Yeah, that's actually that's
like a
actually
magic trick right there.
That's actually what they suggest to do in the wine kits. Is you put the bentonite in before you put the yeast in. You stir it all up and then you do your thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Every
to try
wine kit
that.
I've ever made has had a packet of bentonite, and you add it up front. And I've actually done that with a couple of my batches of mead, but I think most of them are probably still in a bucket somewhere that I haven't actually gone and checked yet.
Wow.
That's a really good idea, though.
Actual wine science actually comes into play with mead making. I think with mead making, there's a lot of like really bad tribal knowledge that really good mead takes years to make.
I hate that. Whenever I hear that, I go no, it doesn't, and it's like makes me so angry.
It doesn't have to.
Really bad mead takes years to taste good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
Yeah.
If you're
Although
lucky,
really good mead can taste even better after a couple of years.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to get back to your question, then after fermentation, I usually let it sit for about 3 months, just to age a little bit. Because 3-month-old mead's way better than 1-month-old mead.
So from a business point of view, that's a lot of stock you've got just sitting there. Is that a cash flow challenge for you?
Not at the moment. There's enough small batches that are kind of in line that I don't have a huge problem with it. It's getting to be a problem.